Hi, I'm Vrinda Agarwal, and thank you for joining us on this edition of ICANN Facebook Live, the better of India in the face of COVID 19. ICANN, India COVID Action Network, is a unique initiative where you can help your community to fight COVID 19 by connecting those who are in need of help and those who can provide it. Please check out our website for more details and how you can become a COVID warrior. Coming back to our talk, in this crisis, I feel a sense of community with every human on this planet. I know that person sitting working in her apartment in Mumbai and video calling her mom asking how to make her way in the kitchen. I know those people standing on the highway waiting to reach their village. I know that cop risking his life to be on the streets, making sure we people stay at home. We are all fighting one common enemy, a virus. The degree of fight may be different for different people, yet we are all against one. Today, I want to talk to the founder of one such community, Mr. Dhimant Parekh. He's the founder of the news platform, The Better India. Dhimant had a long corporate career in heading product teams of several e-commerce platforms companies. In 2009, he and his wife Anuradha started a blog writing positive stories that they found around themselves after getting fed up with the negative news and sensationalism around them. The blog turned into a website and now has an e commerce platform, Better Home, selling sustainable products. Thank you so much, Dhimant, for joining us.
Thanks,
Now,
Vrinda.
we've been seeing that you are extensively covering stories on NGOs, on people doing a lot of work on the ground, even the government authorities at taluk level, block level, district level. I would like to know that is there any one particular story that has struck personally with you? It would be great if you could share with us.
So you mean over the many years since we've been doing this?
Yes.
So yeah, I mean, that's kind of hard because we've covered over like tens of thousands of stories. But I still kind of go back to a story that we wrote way back in 2009. One of the first stories where I was really overwhelmed is that we came across a photography club which was run completely by visually impaired people. To me, that was incredible. And when we wrote that, we actually saw the photos that they had taken, and all the photos were taken with, they being able to listen to their surroundings. And there was a beautiful photo of pigeons flying, and the entire thing was framed purely on how the photographer could listen to the flapping of the wings. But more importantly for me, when we published this story, and again, like I said, this was just 3 months of us starting the Better India. Uh, when we published the story, a couple of weeks later, a visually impaired girl got in touch, and she said that this story had completely changed her life because she always wanted to pursue photography, and people around her would discourage it by saying that, hey, you're visually impaired, how can you even do photography? And then when we put this story out, she learned about it and she went and joined them, and she had a complete transformation. The reason why I also like this story is because this was really the key revelation we had, that if you have the right kind of storytelling, then this is the kind of change that you can achieve in society. So I would definitely say that stands out because it was one of the early stories.
Clearly, I think there's no profession which is not for you, whatever, however differently abled you are. But I would like to know, is there anything within the corona coverage that you're doing, that any story that has personally struck with you and has is very inspiring?
Yeah. So, as part of what has been amazing is to see that amidst this crisis, we are seeing so many people step up, really go out there and help out other people, right? So in that context, we've had numerous heroes who are coming together, and it's been across everything, right? It could be just a common man. So, for instance, yesterday we spoke about a startup in Bhubaneswar who when the lockdown happened, they realized that the elderly, the senior citizens, are going to get hurt the most. So they quickly put up a helpline phone number. The employees started delivering, and when a lot of people around them saw this, they started volunteering, and 30-40 people, it became a 30-40 people movement who has helped out over 600 senior citizens till now. There have been so many fundraisers for the daily wage earners, which are starting to come in. There have been so many tech startups innovating and seeing if they can build products which can help, in this crisis. So we've just been blown away by the number of people coming together and starting. There was, in fact, another story which is very interesting, is that the Tamil Nadu, there's a man who had his car, and he realized that, in the villages nearby, the ambulance and stuff wasn't able to come in. So he actually converted his small car into an ambulance during lockdown, and he's helped save the lives of a pregnant woman, a senior citizen who had fallen down, and all of this during the lockdown, right? And so these are the really small progressive acts of hope and inspiration that we are seeing across the country, and I've just simply been blown away.
Yeah, I mean, even people are risking their life by helping other people, like being on the street, even though they're wearing masks and gloves. But it's not easy to be out there. There is always this fear, even going to a grocery store. For us, there's so much of fear involved, and now people are going there and helping other people. It's truly incredible and very positive. So, like I would like to quote here something like negative attitude, thinking, actions are 9 times more powerful than positive ones. And it is always said that the domino effect, where when you have to spread negativity, is much faster. And positive attitude and thoughts are always very contained. It's very difficult to make them spread. But somehow Better India has been able to spread a lot of positivity around them by maybe curating the content that they're doing at this point, or even engaging with their audiences. So, especially in the Corona context, how has been your journey? How people have come forward, helped with your stories, and how have you been able to build that community right now?
So one thing we realized is that during a crisis like this, more and more people are getting anxious, right? So there is also this whole thing about mental health crisis that we believe is kind of looming, and we can see that in the way a lot of people are reaching out to us. So what we started noticing is that a lot of people during this crisis were seeking out inspiring, hopeful content, because at the end of the day, people were really getting tired of reading and getting scared by all the things that are happening around you. So you go on Twitter, you go on Facebook. Um, it's very confusing. It's very overwhelming. So a lot of people started reaching out to us and thanking us, for the kind of content we were doing. So we then realized that we need to really double down in terms of what everything that we do, right? So in the last 1 month alone, we actually got down to launching a whole slew of things. So the first thing we launched, Vrinda, is a COVID-19 positive news tracker. So you've seen these COVID-19 trackers, right? You can go to every state, you can see how many cases, how many deaths, and so on. But on top of this thing, we actually ended up launching a COVID-19 positive news tracker. So now you can go to every state and see what are the positive stories coming out of the state. You just click on that state, and you can see each state, all the positive stories coming out, right? So that's one thing, the first thing that we launched, because we wanted to people to feel, okay, if you're from Maharashtra, click on Maharashtra. You can see the amazing stories of individuals coming out and helping out, and how you can be a part of it. Right? The second thing we started is that we wanted to do this whole, we call this as a positive news collective. See, the fundamental thing is that we today publish largely in English, and we've started Hindi and Malayalam as well. However, the larger chunk of India doesn't speak only English or only Hindi or only Malayalam, but there are so many regional languages. And our aim was to, if these positive stories are helping out people in the English language, imagine how helpful this could be for taking it to other regional languages. So we launched a positive news collective, where it is an initiative by us to open source our entire COVID-19 related content to regional language publications for free. Just take it, go ahead and translate and publish it to your audience, right? So this way we wanted to take it to as many people as possible. We already have close to about 7 regional publications who are taking it now, and distributing this. Then we launched, we are in the process actually of launching early this week a children's magazine called the Better India Junior Edition. Then we put up a fundraiser, which is it's called Better Together. So we basically, while we were covering so many stories around COVID-19, we saw that the civil service officers were doing so much on the ground at the district level. So we partnered with the IAS and the IRS officers throughout the country at different regions, where we are raising money from our audience, from our community, to donate to daily wage earners, frontline health workers, migrant workers, and using the channels of these IAS, IRS, and the NGOs that they work with to distribute that. So we've launched that. Now, in order to support this as a fundraiser, we've launched something called Gigs for Good, where we bring various artists from across the country who come together and perform on Facebook, Instagram, as part of the process to raise money for the people who need help the most. And then we started also a daily positive news show called Now More Than Ever. The idea is that while we've been doing positive news all along, it's important now more than ever. So we bring in 2 positive stories every day live on Instagram and Facebook. We also started a positive daily newspaper which goes out on WhatsApp. And today, in fact, it's reaching out to millions, where every day you get a digest of all the amazing positive stories. So this is how we really kind of doubled down and brought in a lot of avenues for people to consume positive content. And we are seeing that people are really responding very well. In fact, someone tweeted that this should be marked as an essential service. The Better India should be an essential service in these times. So that is really the kind of inherently the need to get inspired is a very universal need, and that is really what we want to kind of make sure we achieve.
So it seems that you've been working on several news products to reach out to as many people as you can and spread as much of goodness as you can, positive news.
Yeah.
There is always an element of action in your stories where people can do more than just reading a story. Maybe they can donate, maybe they can go and volunteer.
Yeah.
So what have you been seeing in present times, the contribution that people are doing after reading your stories? Has the engagement level gone up, and how are they engaging? I saw on your website that you have this donate button as well, where people can come and donate relief funds for COVID-19. How are you using that fund? So it would be good to know on that.
Yeah. So always our aim has been to use the power of stories to drive action. Right? Our vision was never to say, "Hey, we'll launch a media organization which will just give out information." Right? That's not the reason why we started the Better India. The reason was very clear that how can we build a large community which leverages the power of storytelling to drive large scale change. So our stories always have calls to action. At the very least, there would ideally be like a protagonist whom you can get in touch with, or you can donate, or you can volunteer, or you can be a part of a larger movement. You can take those ideas and replicate, so on. And so our stories have led to such large scale changes where we've helped bring water and sanitation in villages. We've helped fight drought. We've helped urban slum schools get funding. We've helped farmers come out of poverty. And numerous such cases you can actually see in the impact section on our website. So now with respect to COVID-19, one of the things that we are seeing is that there are more people wanting to read this, and there are more people wanting to engage than ever before. A lot of people who are, let's say, stuck at home are actually reaching out saying, what is it that we can do while we are stuck at home? Is there any way we can help out? So one of the things we have is the fundraiser. As I mentioned, this is in partnership with the Civil Service Officers of India. 100% of the money that gets raised goes to the clearly identified NGOs who are helping in distributing the food and the ration and medical supplies to the frontline workers, the daily wage earners, and to migrant workers. So that is one thing which we are kind of which we are working on right now, and we are seeing tremendous traction. We've already kind of raised over 13.5 lakhs in the last about a week, and more people are coming in to thank us that we've enabled something like this.
That's wonderful. I've been reading your earlier case studies pre-COVID as well, where people have come forward, and I saw a blind school case study where people went and actually raised funds and put in money in that blind school. So with COVID, I think the whole sense of community that has come around the world, it's amazing. Everybody out there doing as much as they can. So I'll take I would like to add a song that we've created for COVID at this time. And yes, our readers, just audiences love that song. So we'll just take a 2-minute song break and then we'll come back to our discussion, Dhimant.
Sure.
घड़ी सहमी सहमी जिंदगी बिखरी हुई बंदगी मानवता है पुकार रही दिखाएं हम दरिया दिली I can you can we can India can I can you can we can India can हम सब मिल जाए तो मिलकर हाथ बटाए तो टल जाएगी ये घड़ी झूमेगी फिर से खुशी आशा टूटे नहीं हौसला रूठे नहीं साथ ये छूटे नहीं मंजिल दूर नहीं मानवता है पुकार रही दिखाएं हम दरिया दिली I can you can we can India can I can you can we can India can
So, on that positive note, let's change our discussion a bit to talk to you about your startup experience. And I don't think the Better India is a startup anymore, given you started way back in 2009. So, first, let's talk a little bit about the industry. What we're seeing is people who have been following media industry, they always think that, oh, so many people are reading news, they've been making a lot of money, but at the same time we are seeing news about journalists being laid off in media because uh, they don't know that we have ad revenue falling. And even though people are engaging more and more, but when it comes to advertisements, which is the main source of revenue for any media organization, has been falling. So I think, how are you sustaining in present times? Because I see you have job openings on your website. So clearly there are no layoffs happening in the Better India. It would be great if you could give us a industry scenario and how you are swimming through these times.
See, right from the beginning, right, I think digital media has been a tough um, uh, business idea. So while you can get a lot of eyeballs, you can get a lot of viewership, you can get a lot of viral content, so to speak. But the challenge has always been, how do you monetize all of this? And my view right from the beginning has been that media per se is a kind of an industry where you cannot stick to one revenue model. So you need to very quickly build multiple revenue models in parallel in order to survive, right? So especially in our early days, we experimented a lot. Because I don't come from this background, we'd never done this before. We're both engineering graduates and business school graduates, and so we really kind of had to model out newer ways of sustaining this. So we did a bunch of very different things. One is we created special content with brands, so we got brands to sponsor them. Then we built technology solutions which we licensed to other publishing companies. We licensed our content to other companies that wanted it. We've even done online webinars and stuff which we get sponsored. So there have to be numerous ways, and only then eventually will the whole pie add up. But if you kind of rely on things like programmatic ad buying, right, that I think is kind of unfair to both the audience and to the this thing. If you rely on that, I mean, you could always have that as a mix of your advertising, but relying on that would really be unfair to you as a publisher, because it is not a reflection of how much effort you put in, right? So it doesn't really return you the money. So for us, it's always been, like I said, finding multiple revenue models. The second part has been to keep costs low, and for this we've used technology a lot. So we built a lot of internal tools which helps us scale, helps us do a lot more with a smaller team, which otherwise, if I think when I went and met a lot of other sort of journalism-led news initiatives, I did find that they had a lot more people, purely because I think that whole information about technology and how to use it here obviously has, is not known. So I do see that A, we managed to keep costs significantly low. B, we kept multiple revenue channels, and we only used to grow when the revenue surplus would come in. And that's really the early part of the journey. Of course, once you reach a certain threshold, then you a lot of things fall in place, because once you've established a brand, then you have a lot of companies wanting to work with you. Then you have a lot of other opportunities that open up and stuff. But in the initial part, you have to really focus on how to survive by doing multiple different ways of monetization.
So you mentioned technology here, and we see that there are a lot of journalists who are reporting from the ground.
Yeah.
So is it similar in your organization, and are you taking any measures to protect them from COVID-19, and how are they reporting in such difficult times? Is your technology helping in some way in that direction?
So we as an organization don't have people on the ground. What we do have is a large network of people working in the social sector who work in different sectors like animal conservation, water management, and so on. And they are our eyes and ears on the ground who send in information to us. So this is one of the larger sort of sources. The second source is our reader community, who sends in a lot of stuff our way. And the third is we have a lot of partner institutions who partner with us, and institutions who work in certain areas of the development sector who send in stuff to us. So from a safety perspective for our employees, we actually kind of decided to go work from home even, I think almost 2 weeks before the official lockdown was also announced. We just went in a conservative mode and said, it's just better. So it hasn't impacted the way we work because we're largely online. So it hasn't really kind of changed much for us.
And I was seeing that you have a new e-commerce platform, maybe a new revenue line there working for you, the Better Home.
Yeah.
So it would be great if you could tell something about that, and how is that panning out within current crisis, given e-commerce is totally shut down by the government.
Yeah. No, so this was see our view has been that if you look at the whole thing about climate change, if you look at how the products we use and how are they really affecting everything around us, right? So something as simple as the detergent that you use, or the laundry for the laundry wash, or the dishwash liquid that you use, right? Not a lot of us realize that all of this goes into our sewage system. And then eventually, where does it go? Eventually, it goes into our water bodies. So if you're familiar with the Bangalore's famous Belandur Lake, which is just foaming right now. And what is that foam? It's basically industrial and domestic detergents getting in, right? And there is absolutely no this thing. So we realized that in the long term, this is not going to be sustainable. And we need to come up with stuff that is non-toxic, which is good for cleaning and all of that, yes, but it's also good for the environment. So we spent in a significant amount of time in researching and figuring out what should that be. And the first thing we realized, the first impact that any household has is in the cleaning materials that it uses. So be it your floor, your dish, your laundry, your toilets. So we decided that let's address this. And we came up with a completely non-toxic, biodegradable set of cleaners, which we called the Better Home, which is of course an extension of the Better India and the Better Home. It's a subscription kit. You can just sign up for it. Every month you will get your cleaning kits come in. So the first kit comes in with plastic bottles, which are meant for long-term reuse, because the second ones come in pouches, paper pouches, which also you can send to us and we upcycle and recycle them. So we're really trying to close that loop on, your consumption with respect to cleaners. But yeah, we launched it in Feb and we had to shut down in March. So it's very, very early yet. But interestingly, we were shipping almost close to 200 bottles a day when we launched it, because people really, really feel and understand the impact that this can have. Right now, of course, everything is shut. And I think we respect that, because it's important that only the essentials are allowed, because you don't want to clog up the supply chain with a lot of other things. So we're waiting for the lockdown, and once that comes, we will resume that.
Hopefully it'll be soon and everybody can go out and resume normal life.
Yeah.
Or I think there's going to, I hate the word change right now, but it's going to be different post COVID. Something is going to change. Which brings me to my next question, that you're a product manager and a mentor. And it seems that a lot of products will be redesigned within our economy, given we are using Zoom now for
Yeah.
where these tools were sometimes called, oh, this is for the nerdy computer geek to use. And I'm off technology. I don't know how to do these video conferencing calls. I want to be physically there. And you would see, especially people maybe in the middle age groups who are 50 to 60 or even less, 45. Adapting to technology is not that easy. Now we see that almost everyone is coming online, learning how to go live, Facebook Live. Musicians, poets who are in their 70s are going live from their home with no help, no external technical help to set it up for them.
Yeah.
So, do you think that the products around us are going to change significantly? And any product upcoming that you found really interesting that can be very disruptive?
I think we were on the verge of everything going remote, and this just accelerated it. So I think what would have happened over the next 8-10 years just happened like over a period of 8-10 days. I definitely see Zoom being used a lot. Like my mother uses it now to connect with all her friends, and they have their discussions online. I'm starting to see my son use online video to learn. So a lot of the learning is now moved online. So in that context, I think everything is going to move digital as much as possible. We will interestingly see. So, and I have been seeing a slew of companies which are now coming in, which help address the learning aspect. So while we had things like an academy and Coursera, which came in almost 5-6 years ago, ushering in this online thing. And while people saw that as a sort of a side thing, when I get time, I'll probably pick up a course online. Now I think that's the only way for you to do it. And one interesting startup, I forget the name, I came across recently was allowed you to take bite-sized classes. So you don't have to sign up for an entire course on this thing, but you could actually just go and learn very quickly how like for instance how to make a presentation, or how to use a bank, or stuff like that. Very bite-sized courses. And I thought that is interesting. I think that will be one of the ways in the future where people will learn things, because it's no longer going to be possible to dedicate 1 year, 2 year to do graduations like how we used to do. But I think it'll be more like whatever on a need basis you want to learn, go learn and come back, and that's a small module. I think those are the ways things will happen now.
Yeah, it's changing completely. I'm seeing a lot of discussions on the design circuit as well, that maybe we need to relook how design, even in restaurants, people want Michelin star experiences at home. Send us a package and there's a chef on a video call taking us through what to eat, when to eat, and give that experience while sitting at home. So I will take the discussion a little bit back to Better India now. And I want to talk a little bit about the health sector. How I think it's very important to touch upon that, with the amount of work our doctors and nurses are doing, and even telemedicine for that matter, which is coming up. So, what are you seeing in that direction with your reporting circuit? How your partner organizations or your NGOs are working in that direction, or hospitals? Have you seen any interesting stories coming out of there?
See, I think what we are seeing right now is the very early stage of people adapting towards healthcare. So obviously, you don't have right now any proven models which have come out, because it's just too early. But there are a whole bunch of people who are working towards solving for the key gaps that are emerging as and when this crisis is kind of unfolding itself. So, for instance, there's a Pune firm which came up with a low-cost kit that detects the COVID-19 in less than half the time of what it takes currently, right? Then there have been Mumbai doctors who came together and set up helpline for COVID-19 to just answer the queries for free, just to kind of get people to this thing. So I think right now, what is emerging is that one of the things we've seen is a lot of doctors are willing to kind of consult online, give guidance. We're also seeing a lot on the mental health side, because a lot of people, who now are suddenly in a lockdown, people who are, let's say, very extroverts, who need people around them, do get very anxious and have panic attacks and stuff. So we are seeing that a lot of mental health related helplines have come up. There have been chat message, WhatsApp groups and stuff created where people are, where medical professionals are coming together to help solve for mental health amidst this whole social distancing stuff. So that there is definitely a lot of kind of movement happening to fix the gaps as and when they're emerging. And I think it'll be interesting to see how this evolves into a whole new model once the crisis is over. And that is something I think we'll see after 3 to 6 months.
Yeah, because I mean, we are lucky enough to stay with our families and have someone at home, but there are people who have been working, maybe someone living in Delhi with family working in Bangalore and getting stuck and with no domestic flights or railways working. It's very difficult to go back to home, and being stuck in a room alone can really do wonders with your brains. Like it's very difficult to deal. You become at your weakest mentally at that point. So, have you
Yeah.
seen any NGO or a government helpline or anything at district level which is doing some sort of interesting work when it comes to mental health? Any particular case study?
There are many actually. So I don't know at an organization level, but I'm seeing at a lot of individual medical professionals who are actually coming together and setting up centers. So, for instance, we got a WhatsApp message the other day, and this is an ex sort of she had her own practice early on, but she had kind of uh, retired from it. But she had now kind of sprung into action, had started a WhatsApp helpline where you could just message and she would call and speak to you and try and help you address this whole during this whole mental health crisis during this whole social distancing. There was an organization uh, called the Minds Foundation. Actually, they've been doing something interesting where they have basically started giving a lot of information around how emotional and mental well-being needs to be kind of, what are the guidelines to have mental well-being. Physical well-being, we all know, you can exercise or you can do all of this, but how can you have mental well-being during this COVID-19? There was a very interesting set of things that they had kind of listed down. So that organization definitely comes to my mind. The one of the things I think which is emerging is also that a lot of people are using tools, apps, and then there are apps on your mobile phone which can help you actually stay calm and grounded. So the apps like Headspace, Calm, Mindful. There's another app called Waking Up, and these technology tools are helping a lot of people, in at least where I see and people talking about it. So it's amazing to see how technology and individuals are stepping up to really solve this whole looming mental health crisis.
Um, I want to even touch a little bit upon environment at this point as well, given how we see our environment is rejuvenating itself with people not being there. There's wildlife coming out. You're seeing mountains being seen from cities that you'd never fathomed that you could see.
Yeah.
Have you seen any positive news on the front of environment that the organizations or the environmentalist groups are seeing, experts are seeing? Anything that has caught your eye recently?
One of the things was that the number of patients checking in for asthma has come down. And being in Bangalore, I've seen asthma being a big issue here because the air in general has a lot of pollutants and pollen and stuff. And with this air clearing up, we are seeing that has definitely come down significantly. It's a lot easier to breathe. We also kind of notice the other thing is in terms of the presence of flora and fauna, right? So you're talking about birds and all has really significantly gone up. I can say that personally seeing it around in Bangalore, how that has kind of really taken up. There has also been a lot of organizations who are working towards helping out stray dogs. So in fact, yesterday we covered a story about a person in Delhi. So and this is something that again we never think about it. So the fact that when restaurants are all closed, all your takeaways, all your restaurants are closed, right? What happens is that stray dogs actually rely on food, which is which is thrown outside restaurants in garbage pails and all of that. Now, the fact that there has been no food means stray dogs really have no source of food after a point. And so then yesterday we came across this person named Jotwinder Singh is in Delhi, who is actually now feeding 400 odd stray dogs every single day. He arranges 50 kgs of food daily. And he basically used to run a New Delhi based dog food service. And once this whole thing happened, he started really kind of helping out all the stray dogs. So there's a lot of that kind of movement that we are seeing at the ground level, people coming together.
That's wonderful. 400 stray dogs in a day.
Yeah, every
That's
single
good.
day. Yeah.
So this has been a lot of case studies that you're going through in positivity. I want to actually talk a little bit about Bangalore. I've visited the city thrice, and it seems it works a lot on gig economy, where there are people who are delivering food. Every new app has to be first launched in Bangalore because it laps up technology way faster
Yeah.
compared to other cities in the country.
Yeah.
Have you seen anything happening on that front? Have the people been actually walking back home, or they've stayed back and there are people out there helping them? Has the gig economy been able to survive in Bangalore at this point?
I think the gig economy has been hit the hardest, no matter where, right? Whether it's Bangalore or Delhi or Mumbai. The fact is that there is very less business, so very less revenue, and hence they're not getting paid out. So while you do have food delivery and other delivery companies now operating at some level of scale, it's still not at the scale at which a gig economy worker can actually survive for too long. So we do think that it's been hit very badly even in Bangalore. But I do see that a lot of people are still starting to make use of these app-based delivery services. So you're starting to see some traction. But for instance, your cab services, right? It's still completely shut. Most of the cab drivers have zero sources of other income. And then you have rentals on your cars and so on. So that's a big hit. The delivery ones, like I said, I'm guessing based on what I see around, is probably they're operating at 15-20% of their capacity. So we'll have to wait it out. But I think they're hit hardest, whether it's Bangalore or any city.
They are the lifelines, but it's very difficult to keep them functioning.
Yeah.
So that was a wonderful conversation, and I think I covered a range of topics and tried to pick up your brain on every little issue. But do you think I've missed out on something that you would like to add? That's something you want to highlight?
No, so I think what I really want to kind of point out is that there is immense power in spreading positivity, right? And by positivity, I don't mean just kind of so it's not about viewing the world with rose-tinted glasses, and this is really kind of what I'd like to kind of highlight. Is it's more about saying that if you look at the spectrum of stories that are accessible to an average citizen, it's largely skewed towards what we call news, which is essentially your politics and crime and entertainment, right? Celebrity gossip and stuff like that. What I've realized is that when you actually give a citizen an access to information that he or she can use and make a difference, it's amazing to see how people actually step up and take those solutions and run with them and drive so much change. So I think fundamentally people are looking for such avenues. So which is where we are kind of coming in and providing action with every story. I do think that a lot more people should spread all of this positivity, because I have seen the impact of this. And now imagine if each one of us kind of becomes ambassadors and spreads this. That can actually drive a very large scale change in society, and this is really what we want to achieve, like a ground up level change in the country.
We often see this drawing room discussion that I'm just taking the thought from what you mentioned, that people are stepping up, and whenever you see some family members sitting together, oh, there are so many NGOs that are working, they're providing food, they're working for the poor, for their livelihood, but somehow we still see so much of poverty in our country.
Yeah.
What is it, where the funds are going? There are people, I'm contributing, I'm trying to help out my community, but it just seems that there is not enough.
So that's a very clear analogy of how do you look at short-term versus long-term solutions, right? If an organization or an individual who is trying to help out cannot help out at a systemic level for the long run. You and I can help out someone by giving that today's meal or the next day's meal or the third day's meal, right? But we are not setting up that person's life and that kid and that person's kid's life for life. That systemic change can only happen at a government infrastructure level. That infrastructure you and I can't even think about. It's a very large infrastructure. So you're talking about education, you're talking about access to great education, you're talking about access to great healthcare, you're talking about access to great law and order, stuff like that, right? I don't think an NGO or an individual common man can solve for it. It's just not in his or her capacity. So the whole drawing room conversation about saying, oh, there are so many NGOs, yet so many people are poor. The fact is that they can't solve for poverty. They can solve as kind of immediate relief, right? And that immediate relief could be a day, a week, a month, but it definitely can't be a decade. It's just not possible. That's not the scale at which they can operate. And that can only be done with the government. So it's a very wrong analogy to even have that as a question. It's more like saying, okay, these guys are there, so there are at least some relief measures. At least they are surviving to the next day, as compared to saying, oh, why is there more poverty? It's not their purview to solve it. They can't solve it.
So they're providing a short-term cushion, but at the long term, you have to work at the government level.
It has to be policies. It has to be your economics which come into play. It's not relief measures which can help you for the long run.
Perfect. I would like to end this discussion by asking a little more futuristic question about Better India. So now what about the Better India from here? Where do you see it going?
we get asked, we get this asked almost every year. Look, I think for us, fundamentally, it's important that our mission is to take positive news to as many people as possible. Right? So we've launched it. I think we've reached a large section of people. We collectively reach out to over 50 million people across all our social media channels every month, which is predominantly English, though. And like I said, we're now in Hindi, we are in Malayalam, and we hope to kind of get into a lot more regional language channels so that we can take this positivity there. We would love to see almost every Indian actually being inspired by all the stuff that's happening. And so that's really where we're working towards. And the second part is, of course, like I said, if we can start making a dent in the whole ecosystem of climate change by building sustainable options for people, that would also be a big boost for us. So we're really working towards, so think of us more as a content-led community which is working towards sustainability, right? That's really where we're working on.
So to more such positive content, and hope we see it keep coming and getting inspired by it and lighting up our day for either that 5 minutes that we read a story on Better India. So I would like to end by actually clapping for all the frontline workers, nurses, doctors, people in gig economy, NGO volunteers who are doing some incredible work to keep this whole crisis at bay for us. So yeah, a huge clap there. And thank you so much, Dhimant.
Thank you so much.
Hope
thank you so
have
much.
A wonderful day.
Thank you. You too.
Bye.